Jack Hallowell in the building.
As what? Yeah.
Jasper Simmons, top table, Jasper.
Away we go. The man from Keighley against the Gloucesterman. Chris Melling against Ross Dunn. Jason Owen Open, round one. And Ross, not a player to take lightly. Chris Melling will go into this as favourite, and rightly so, but Ross is potential banana skin. And of course only a race to 4, so anything can happen. The start always very crucial.
Sam Boom, Adam Toms, table 17. Second call for Daniel Bailey in the room.
Well, this is quite incredible. The last 32 of the main event, Pat Ward was 6-2 up against Ben Clark. They started at 4 minutes past 9 this morning. 3 hours and 3 minutes on from there. They're now at 6-5. Still going. That is an absolute marathon.
Is Daniel Bailey in the room? Does anyone know if Daniel Bailey is coming today?
Sean Chipperfield already threw his game against Andrew Lister. Jake McCartney threw against Oliver Lawrence. Neil Davey 3-1 up against Glenn Carr. Brett Wild 4-1 up against Ben Swinnerton. Mike Beckett 4-2 against Jordan Graham. I say 4-1, sorry, 4-1 up. Obviously, their race is to 4, so these games are finished. Jez Graham threw against Ryan Bodsworth. Neil Rayburn threw against Mark Thrussell. And about 13 games now in action from the Jason Owen Open. A few games still remaining from the ladies' event as well. Ross being careful not to move the 8-ball. Currently has a ball next to it, which is pretty much his only protection. So despite the fact that all the yellows are there and thereabouts on the table, Chris electing to play a little conservative shot.
Andy Day in the room. Missing Andy Day, table 19. Match on table 9. Next match on table 9. Liam White, Reece Townsend. Liam White, Reece Townsend, table 9. Next match on table 14, Paul Wyatt, Phil Harrison. Paul Wyatt, Phil Harrison, table 14.
I think covering this bag can do good things. It's quite difficult when you've got only 3 balls left on the table and your opponent's got all the pieces in play. And I think, yeah, I was going to say the yellow goes above the red. Just be careful where that red goes. It's gone between the 2 yellows, which just gets in the way of the plant. So it may just play it to the right-hand side of the ball, so he's absolutely fine. Whoa. Just caught that red on the way past. As I say, I did not expect that. Still in control though. Don't think he can play a deliberate foul here. Red up onto the yellow, covering that pocket, because Chris then has 2 visits just to develop a not particularly difficult ball to develop. Yeah, I think he's resigned to just dropping this in and playing a double. Pretty good angle for it. I think. Should go close. Well, misses the double and hands it across to Chris Melling, who will take no time at all over this clearance. The only consideration here is obviously the 8-ball doesn't go to top right corner, so he's going to have to play around the back of it and play it into the same pocket as this yellow. Really landed a little straighter than ideal as well, but he's overhit this one by quite some margin. And that is razor thin. I think he's got a safety if he wants it. He could just play off the edge and leave the cue ball on the right hand side cushion near the red, but so I think that's what he's looking at now. But the problem is it gives Ross a pretty easy snooker back. Maybe a double to left middle. Yeah, that's what he's played. Double to left middle and tried to leave the cue ball across on the right hand side cushion. I think it's just come far enough that Ross can clip this in. And the cue ball, well, with the help, maybe just, yeah, you can see from there, maybe just the help of a trace of left hand side, should naturally come around for the 8-ball. 3 cushions, 1, 2, not quite going to make the third. So a bit of an error in judgment from Chris Melling, who came up short of pace. Sorry, overhit the shot to get onto the 8, and it's cost him the frame. 1-0 to Ross Dunn. Neil Davey on the hill against Glenn Carr. Chris Hampson 2-0 against Mark Price. Finally, that game between Pat Ward and Ben Clark is over. Pat Ward wins 7 frames to 5 after a valiant comeback from Ben Clark, but that sounded like a bit of a marathon. So the last 16 is decided. In the main event, Dylan Leary will play Ben Flack, Sean Chipperfield against John Egan, Callum Singleton, Aaron Davis, Carl Sutton, Eddie Barker, Jake McCartney, Phil Harrison, Rob Warren, Clint Ianson, Jack Whelan, Lee Kendall, and Declan Brennan versus Pat Ward. That's how the last 16 lines up. Chris Melling in off,
Peter Maloney, Ben Clark, table 8, please.
And another chance for Ross Dunn. That's a little bit clumsy, pushing the red down on top of the yellow. So now suddenly a ball that was absolutely fine now needs developing.
Next match on table 4, Richard Gifford, Neil Toms. Richard Gifford, Neil Toms, table 4.
So Chris has already entered the main event against Chris Day yesterday, so he's going to want to have a long run in this Jason Owen Open. Otherwise it's a long way to come for a couple of games. I met him in reception last night. He said that he feels he's playing really well, but just maybe not quite catching the breaks at the moment. But well, like any other player really, so everyone goes through these patches. And another chance for Ross. 240 people watching, but only 2 people have given us the thumbs up on the YouTube page. Please, if you're ever watching the stream, if you could remember, just take a moment to click the thumbs up button. Would be greatly appreciated. We have currently 9,000 300 subscribers on YouTube, so we're chasing to try and get to 10,000. It's a big milestone, so please help us along the way. Also over 900 videos on our YouTube channel, so it shows how much content's there. Going back a good number of years as well, there's some classic matches you can watch on there. Of course, the whole of the Supreme Series was broadcast onto that channel, and a lot of the money matches we did back in the day as well. Things like Tom Cousins against Mark Boyle, that was a classic game. The Waddingham Boyle game up in Falkirk, that was another amazing game. And another game involving Mark Boyle against Clint Jansen at Nottingham. There really are some fantastic matches on there. One from Exeter a good number of years ago was Jordan Church against Mike King, which was another great game. If you're ever looking for a bit of pool to watch, then Beer Productions channel has, as I say, content probably going back, it's about 4 or 5 years. What's Chris spotted here? 2 cushions to top corner, or is it? What has he spotted here? He's just never put these shots past him. I don't think he's a natural. He has to make this one. And it can be a little bit slidey, so hard to judge. But there you can see the path. Oh, I was wondering. The path wasn't there to top corner, so I was wondering what he was seeing. Played it into middle and only just caught the knuckle. How close was this? Look at this. When he was looking at that angle, I was wondering what he was after. Some vision, just to see those shots. All ends up with another frame to Ross Dunn, and that's 2 frames to 0. Chris Melling needs to do something and do it pretty quick. I said at the top of the show that Ross Dunn is a quality player and always going to be a tough opponent. You can't take him for granted. To be fair to Chris Melling, he's not had that many really good chances yet. So Ross breaking in frame 3, in control of the game, race to 4. He's halfway there. Timed that so well. Absolutely crunched it. he's looking at yellows and to see whether that yellow passes the red, that left-hand side cushion. If it does, then I think probably yellows are the ball because they will have a pocket. But if it doesn't, then could possibly make a case for reds. Just not sure whether he has the angle on the one to top left now to punch across for the one just above the brown spot. It's yellows that he's going for. I think he's obviously decided that this ball does go. If it doesn't, then he does have an angle where he could move it. Just looking again. It's obviously very tight. Misjudged. So he obviously decided that it didn't go, so he was going to cannon it off. The reds are by no means easy. They weren't. And that's why Ross chose to go yellows. That makes him a bit easier. That's a great developing shot. Now he just needs to pull out one good plant. Daniel asking the question whether we think that Chris Melling overcomplicates things. I mean, it is a fine balance. He is a very, very creative player, and it's that creativity that makes him the player he is sometimes. So it's, I don't know, it's a difficult one. As I say, very fine balance. Sometimes it looks like absolute genius. And other times it looks like possibly just overcomplicating things, but I mean, I'd love to have his natural gift, his natural talent in full flow. There really is just nobody better to watch. When he was playing yesterday against Chris Day, he was behind and under it and produced his absolute best pool. He was, he just found another gear and literally threw everything he had at Chris Day. Pulled out a couple of unbelievable finishes. But yeah, an interesting point. Big cluster of ball, and it needs to take care out of this over this opening shot, because he had to make sure of a pot. I think he's just tried to come a little higher up the table just to take these two reds nearest the blue spot. He's just fallen short of pace. So I think possibly plan B now, he's going to have to take this one down the left-hand side cushion, but I think he's probably fairly quickly going to come back up table. He's going to deal with things at the bottom first. Now, just that tiny little nudge on the yellow. You just wonder whether the red just above the cue ball previously went to bottom right. Maybe that nudge only moved it a couple of millimetres, but possibly in the path now. I think it probably still passes into that pocket, but he needs cue ball on a string here. Again, find his mark. He was trying to come up onto those 2 yellows again, but does his red pass the 8 ball? No. Actually, I didn't see he could get through to this one. But again, cue ball. There's a lot of traffic. Look how much right hand side he's putting on this ball. Never been able to find position on these 2 reds. He's still on them, but they're pretty tricky. That's a great shot, but just push that red on top of the yellow, which still makes it tricky, but I think he's got just the angle where he can screw back in behind it to play it long. I think there's just enough. He's just off straight. I think he can just screw across the face of the black onto the right hand side cushion and leave that red to top left. There you can see it's only just off straight. So he's going to have to make this. You can see him digging down, playing it with left hand side to produce the angle. I think the red actually goes to left centre, which makes life easier. No, taking it long. Wow. That was never a simple finish, but somehow he navigates it. Brilliant. Never quite had the cue ball exactly where he wanted it, but just potted his way out of trouble. So again, a tricky finish. Just needs to judge his cannon well. Inevitably going to, cannon the yellow to the left-hand side and just nudges it and left a nice angle. Just a little touch of side to help the cue ball around the angles, but he's overhit that one just slightly. Wanted to finish probably 6 inches shorter of that position, but he's got a choice of either. I think possibly, if he can avoid the cannon on the 8 ball, then would possibly play the one next to the 8 ball and just run around 2 cushions. There is a red that's in that path, so I think he's got a bigger angle than it looks on the screen on the one to middle. There you can see it, so I'm not sure he's got a choice. He can take his medicine and just screw back into the gap between those two reds at the top of the table. He's looking at both. Or maybe he has to play all the way around the reds in bulk. I think he's going around the houses. He plays it with check side. Just gives himself a shot. But another one that's a thin cut, and now I think he probably just avoids the cannon on the 8 ball. Oh, wow. I don't know. I mean, that's come off at such a weird angle, you've got to say that's a kick. That's come off. That's a horrendous kick. You could just see by the line it took as soon as he contacted it. I mean, it was a kick, but if you want to put it down to a poor shot, you can, but that was 100% a kick. Yeah, Eric the King makes a really good point. I mean, it is. I mean, it's not just the fact that it's a more level playing field nowadays. The standard is definitely higher for sure, right the way across the board. But also, the equipment they play on makes the game a little easier. It's a thinner cloth that they're playing on. It's pacey, it's reactive. The balls are different. The tables play differently. They definitely play bigger than they did back in 20 years ago. When you watch those old games played on the old style tables.
Aaron Keeling, Tony Blount, table 5. On table 10, Danny Davies, Callum Singleton. Danny Davies, Callum Singleton, table 10. On table 12, Spencer Daniels.
But I 100% agree.
Spencer Daniels, Jim Hanson, table 12.
There was, I mean, the players from that era are probably going to disagree, but I think there were some great players around then, but the great players were probably, in the sort of, there was a dozen or 20 of them, but nowadays you look across this field and there's so many players that can win these events. You've only got to look at the kind of quality you've got in the IPA, in the Ultimate Pool. There really are some great players around, and I think the thing is now you've got the new breed coming through. You've got the real kind of youngsters like your Luke Gilberts, and you've got your kind of middle ground players, or your sort of 25, 30-year-olds, and then you've also got your older players like your Carl Morrises, Chris Mellings, Mick Hills, and they're all still playing at the top of the game as well. Yeah, the middle field of kind of Mark Boyle and I guess Scott Gillespie and people like that. So right the way across the board, all age ranges, they're still competing at the highest level. So Chris obviously potted off the break. Just the one obvious problem, which he's gone after straight away. He's missed the cannon, I think. Could well come back to haunt him. He had to make that cannon well. He had the red over the bottom left because that was always his safety ball. Now if he goes back up to try and develop it again, he's probably, I don't know, he doesn't really have the angle off the one bottom left. He's too straight on it. Maybe could play it thin and try and manufacture something. He's definitely got the cue power to do it, but all of a sudden it's definitely an easier ball to develop from below. He may just, he's gone top of table now, so I think he's probably looking to play the double. Yeah, there really is a plethora of talent around now. I mean, even when we come to this event, and you look down through the prices that people are offering, and you've got someone like Steve Petty at 40 to 1. He's more than capable of winning one of these events, and Josh Kane at like 28 to 1 or something. And again, all the way down to that kind of level, more than capable. People like Greg Batten and Carl Sutton, always offering value. Again, players that are very capable. There's so many players in this field. 150 players come here, and there's probably, with respect to some of the field, but there's at least 30 to 35 players that you wouldn't be in the slightest bit surprised that they were in the final. There's probably another 30 on top of that could win it if they had a really good weekend and buzzed. Strength and depth around at the moment is incredible. The game for me just going from strength to strength.
On table 11, Neil Wren, Wade Morley. Neil Wren, Wade Morley, table 11.
Just overdone that one slightly. Now he's cut the yellow back into a blind pocket and a bit more tricky to control the cue ball. So I think he would have wanted to be just a touch straighter. He could stun across into the red, which is to the left of the cue ball now, and leave the yellow to right centre. May choose to reroute here because he's really left a big angle.
On table number 7, Dale Greenwood, Greg Batten. Dale Greenwood, Greg Batten, table number 7. On table number 9, Carl Hoff, Adam Basu. Carl Hoff, Adam
Oh dear.
Basu, table 9.
Disaster. should be the end of the weekend for Chris Melling, and it's not been the best of weekends for him. Won't want reminding that he lost a heel game against Chris Day yesterday, and now we said that Ross Dunn was a dangerous player, and just that in-off was one too many mistakes. And this is a nice finish from Ross. He's composed himself well to take them out. Simple enough, but he does it. Players shake hands, and that's Chris away for the weekend. And it's the end of the line for him. It's not the end of the line for us. We're going to be back with more action. Not quite sure which game's up next, and my phone has decided to the signal's decided to disappear, so I can't even look at the draw to tell you who's up next. As always, if you've liked and subscribed to the stream, then you'll get a notification as soon as we go live. We're going to pick a game out for you, and we'll be back with the action in probably just about 5 or 6 minutes. See you then.